Hello, welcome to Lil's Vintage World. This video is going to be some more historical fiction book review wrap-up type things. I've really got into historical fiction. I had quite a few years where I wasn't reading a lot, and ever since I've started reading kind of more the vintage historical fiction, I've been really enjoying it. So, getting straight into it, you'll see a theme with the first couple of books, I'm afraid, but this is The First Elizabeth by Ursula Bloom in this beautiful edition. If you head over to my Instagram, you can see it's a bit closer in depth, this book, but it is really, really pretty. I love vintage books for their covers as well as their content. I always think they're so much fun. So this book is from the 1950s, 1953 to be precise, and this is a fictionalised account of Elizabeth I's life from when she is Lady Elizabeth. At the beginning of the book, we meet her and she is on the boat heading off to the Tower. So Elizabeth, during her lifetime, she did end up locked up in the Tower of London during the reign of her sister, Mary I, Bloody Mary, and that's where we first meet her in this book. And then this book goes all the way through to her death, essentially, the end of her life. Now, I did enjoy this book. I really love the writing style. I think Mary Essex, Ursula Bloom, whatever you want to call her, she had many pen names. I think Ursula Bloom was her actual name. I think she writes so beautifully, particularly when she's talking about flowers and gardens. She has that, and Elizabeth von Arnim's really good at doing that as well. There's a few fantastic authors out there that as soon as you mention gardens and flowers and plants and trees, they really come to life, and certainly in this one I really loved that writing style. The writing style just generally throughout, but when it's talking about flowers and fauna, I was just like, yes, wonderful. So I really loved the writing style. A couple of issues that I had with it was I wasn't keen on the portrayal of Lord Robert. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I don't like how it was written. I didn't feel like she completely captured Elizabeth, but I feel like she captured Elizabeth a lot better than she captured Robert. I did think it was quite interesting about Lord Robert and the mystery around his first wife. So Lord Robert was married originally to Amy Robsart. Amy Robsart was found during the reign of Elizabeth, very early on in her reign. She was found dead at the flight of stairs, and it was a mystery. What's happened to her is still a mystery today. Did she commit suicide? Was it an accident, or was she pushed? Was she murdered, essentially? And if she was murdered, who killed her? Because you don't necessarily have to be the one shoving her down to be the murderer. You are the killer, but not necessarily the murderer. And people were like, is it Lord Robert? Is it Elizabeth? Is it Cecil? You know, there was all these questions going on of if she has been murdered, who did it? And Ursula Bloom in this book has a very interesting take on that, which I did actually quite enjoy. The other kind of negative thing about this is I felt it was a bit rushed. So this book is 160 pages and it starts off so well. I thought going into this, wow, at the beginning, 5-star book. This is the 5-star Ursula Bloom that I've been waiting for. No. It started off really well because she's in the Tower and we get, you know, Elizabeth and we get Mary, and it was wonderful. And then she leaves and I was like, oh, okay. And then she goes to house arrest, essentially. And I still really enjoyed that bit, but then it rushed on to further on and Elizabeth's reign and stuff like that. And what I felt like I got a really good detailed bit, then we rush, detailed chunk, rush, like that, because it's only 160 pages. So I did like it, but I would have been very happy if it was just on Elizabeth, you know, from the time where she is being taken to the Tower up till her ascending to be queen. I'd be very happy for it to be that for 160 pages because Ursula Bloom writes so beautifully, so that would have been fine for me. But yeah, I just felt some bits were rushed, unfortunately. But I still did really like it, like rating wise, like a 3.5 I would give it. I still thought it was really good and certainly worth a read if you're interested in some vintage historical fiction. Speaking of Elizabeth, can you sense a little theme here? Ta-da! This is My Enemy the Queen by Victoria Holt. Victoria Holt is a pen name for an author who has another very well-known pen name, Jean Plaidley, or Plaidley, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce the name. This is a vintage one from 1978, so more recent. I love this cover. So we have Elizabeth Lettice, Robert Dudley, and the Earl of Essex. I don't know if you can see that. Head over to my Instagram, you can see these on there in greater detail. I love the cover. There was another copy of this, but it was a hardback one, and I was like, it's not as nice as this one, so I had to buy this one. So this is really interesting actually, because this is essentially memoirs, like historical fiction memoirs, from the point of view of Lettice. So Lettice Knowles was a relation to Elizabeth I. So Lettice Knowles' mother was Catherine. Catherine was the daughter of Mary Boleyn. So Elizabeth's the daughter of Anne Boleyn, Catherine's the daughter of Mary Boleyn. Who Catherine's father is, I mean, was it Henry VIII? I'm saying nothing. Yeah, so Elizabeth, when she came to the throne, although she couldn't be like, my mother's innocent, because that would have, you know, been really problematic for her, what she did do was surround herself in her court and the people in trusted positions, essentially, with Boleyns. So people that are related to her on her mother's side, she surrounded herself by, including Catherine, and then Catherine's daughter, Lettice. So they are related, and this is Lettice's memoirs, essentially, because her enemy was the Queen, because they're in this weird love triangle with Robert Dudley, because Robert Dudley had known the Queen since childhood. I'm talking really fast now. I'll slow down. The Queen and Robert Dudley have known each other since they were kids. My nan used to say, you're not a kid, kids are baby goats, since childhood. And of course, Lettice and Elizabeth are related, so there ended up being this weird love triangle. I won't spoil it for you in case you don't know what happens, but I enjoyed this book. I thought parts of this was so good. Lettice was getting on my nerves, which is good, because Lettice just generally does get on my nerves. That's me being biased towards Elizabeth. Hey ho. I thought Elizabeth was good in parts, not all the way through, but some parts. I was like, yes, that is her. Lord Robert, again, what's this capturing of Lord Robert that I don't like? But I didn't feel like he was captured correctly. I feel like in this book he was just ambitious, and he was just out for himself and no one else. And I also didn't buy the friendship between Elizabeth and Robert, and I really should. And I didn't. But I did rather enjoy it. And I think the problem with both of these, actually, when it comes to Lord Robert, is I should feel really moved when he dies, and I didn't. But I still really enjoyed both of these. Both of these, like 3.5 out of 5 star. Certainly worth a read if you haven't picked them up and you like vintage historical fiction. The last book that I finished rather recently, and that is Victoria by Daisy Goodwin. So this is from the creator of the ITV series, which I have watched. I haven't watched every episode, but I've watched quite a few, and I like it. I don't love the series, but I do enjoy it. I think it's an easy watch. And this book is kind of like the beginning of her reign and slightly before her reign as well. And I have such a difficult relationship with Victoria because, of course, I'm a huge lover of the women's suffrage movement, and I think it's such an important time in history. And Victoria's like, I don't get why women need the right to vote. And there's just so many things that Victoria does. I think it's just a clash of personalities that we just wouldn't get on. So, yeah, I started off really enjoying this. And then after about page 100, I started to get a bit bored. So I think it's one of those books where if I was on holiday and I was having a holiday where I was literally sat down doing nothing by a pool, this would actually be a really good book. But because I was like doing stuff and then in and out, I think I needed to binge it because it's over 450 pages, but it's very easy to read. It's not complex in language or themes or anything like that. I'm definitely going to keep hold of it and in the future come back to it maybe on a holiday and binge it, and I think I'll prefer it more. But in and out wasn't, yeah, sadly I just got a bit bored. But it's still good, just wasn't as good as I was hoping it was going to be. But I feel a little more fondly for Victoria now. A little. Right, so that is it for my historical fiction book reviews. If you have any historical fiction authors who you think I should check out, vintage ones preferably, similar time of the Ursula Bloom one, so like 1950s, if you have any recommendations for me, let me know, because I'm trying to hunt lots of vintage historical fiction down, because to be honest, I think the vintage historical fiction is better than the modern. Is that controversial? I don't know. So yeah, if you have any recommendations, let me know. And that's it for this video. Take care, and I shall see you soon for the next one. Bye for now.